Okay. All right. All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Tonight, I'm bringing a special Sunday night broadcast with special guest Tony Riley, ED.S, and Dr. Christine Richards will be joining us shortly, CEO of Green Tech Rochester, as they discuss Green Tech Niagara, which is coming to Niagara Falls in the school year 2027 2028. And other info that will be covered tonight is Niagara Falls a viable location for establishing a new school? What are some of the strategies that will be implemented to reduce suspensions amongst elementary age students? And how can the Niagara Falls City School District improve low ELA and math performance on New York State assessments, along with much more info? We will be streaming live tonight on Facebook, Green Tech Niagara Facebook page, YouTube, the Controversial Counselor channel, and LinkedIn. So please join us and share this information with all people that's interested in this very important subject matter.
Absolutely.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Richards.
Good evening. Hopefully y'all can hear me okay.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we can.
So I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Also, we have Tony Riley. We got Herb Lewis, aka the Big Bad Wolf, and we got Dr. Christine Rogers. So I'm going to start. Richard. My apology. So I'm going to start off with, just me myself being an educator for what's this year, like 32, and I know the grinds and the ups and downs and the highs and lows, but to take on, the opening of a new school, that's a massive undertaking. So I'm definitely interested in to find out why and how smoothly the transition went, some of the bumps in the road, because this is important as being a fellow student in the Niagara Falls School District. And I know we really didn't have a choice in where we went to school at. You just had to go. Maybe in high school we had two choices, actually three, but that was pretty much it. So I think our young people need as many opportunities as they can other than going to their local neighborhood school and be able to go somewhere else where it may be a more, viable community or better setting, different teachers. And hey, so, we can go from there. If Tony, you want to tell a little bit about yourself? And
Absolutely. But the question you asked was probably one best answered by Dr. Richards, because she's really there in the middle of launching the school, right? And a lot of people don't understand that this work is heavy. It's not easy, and it requires commitment and a passion for the work and for the children that we serve. So, Dr. Richards, can you share for us what it's been like, what your journey has been like so far? And I'll share with you what mine's been like after she's done.
Absolutely. And I apologize. I'm trying to get on camera, but it's for some reason it's not being my friend. Okay.
There you are.
So good evening, and again, thank you for having me. I appreciate taking this time to join you. It has definitely been a labor of love. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's a lot of work. Starting a school from the ground up is a lot of work. But it's work that is that is plentiful, is work that is rewarding at the end of the day, because the result will be having a school that is going to cater to our young men. And I'm going to be safe to say majority, probably Black and brown young men, kindergarten and first grade. And it's going to give them an experience of what life is going to be like for them, right? They're going to have the influence of people who look like them, male and female, right? We're gonna get male role models, as well as we're gonna have female role models, partnerships, community volunteers. We're gonna be a family focused school. So It definitely is a lot of work, and I've been in education for over 20 years, but on the public sector. So switching over to the charter world was completely new for me. And every day I'm like, you sure? You positive? That's what we're doing? Okay, if you say so, and we forge ahead. But I mean, it's definitely a lot of work setting up the structures, the operations. And when I say everything, I mean everything. It's not like you're walking into a district that's already set up for you. You are creating that, but definitely with some partnerships of different organizations and companies that are definitely beneficial and help make the work well worth it.
Yeah, one of the things that I found extremely interesting about what you're doing is that Green Tech Rochester is different from Green Tech Niagara in a unique way, is that it's an all-boys school.
Yes, yes, that's our focus.
Absolutely. And we know from research that young men need opportunity and they need those foundational pieces sooner rather than later. And we know that sometimes those cultural relationships are just so important to helping kids in their early developmental stages. So I wanted to have them understand, because someone had asked me, is Green Tech Niagara all boys school? And I was like, no, it's co-ed. I said, you're confusing it with Rochester. So
I mean, and our young men need a safe place to learn and grow, right? To be nurtured, to be who they are, and not be afraid to be who they are, and to be taught how to grow into who they are, right? And who they will be as young men and as young Black men, young brown men, and whomever else that decides to grace our doors. They need a safe space to do that. So often our children are taught to sit still, don't move, don't talk, don't do this, don't do that, while some other children may just run free, right? So at some point in time, when do we allow our children to be children? Absolutely. And to teach them to what it is that how this world is going to receive them, but teach them how to be received and how to teach people how to treat them.
Absolutely. As you were mentioning that, it took me back to my earlier studies, and I came across this article where this Black psychologist had talked about how our cultures sometimes get in the way of student learning. And she talked about being on the New York City subway, and on that subway, what she saw was this white child. He was kind of all over the place, swinging off of the pole and all of that stuff. And the Blacks, the African Americans and the minorities were kind of looking at this little boy with disdain, him and his mother. But she said, as she reflected and she looked at this young man, he was being taught to explore his area, to be, his inquisitive nature was supported by his mother, allowing him to do this. Whereas in our culture, our parents probably would have told us what? Sit down. Right? Don't you move. Right? Yeah. So we don't even realize that from the earliest of stages, that we might be actually, interfering with those early developmental stages of exploration. So it's important that we too, as parents and as a community, think about those small things that might hinder our kid from being innovative, being creative, and looking outside of their norm, and being scientists, right? Doctors, they're all explorers, right? So we want to make sure that we're catering and supporting to that natural curiosity that so many of our young kids have at an early age. So,
and what's hard about that though, Tony, I'll just chime in real quick, is that sometimes we don't realize what we're doing because that's what's been ingrained in us, right? So 50% of the way you parent is at least 50% of how you were parented.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if we were taught to, when you're out in public, you don't touch, you don't sit, you don't move, you don't do this. But why? What's the historical reason behind that? So think about who we are, right? And where we come from. And if you were out there doing things and moving and exploring, you might get whooped. Might be, right? So if attention was brought to you, or you showed or displayed any skill or any talent, you may have been taken from your parent.
Right.
Yeah.
So some of that is a historical context, right? Whereas it's been ingrained in us and we don't even really realize it. We grow up with thinking that that's how you're supposed to. Kids aren't supposed to run. They're not supposed to play in public. They're not supposed to explore. Whereas it's so much the historical context behind why we were taught that, or we thought that was the best way to raise our kids, is historical in nature, way back and back in slavery times and days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dr. Degrassi said, I was watching just a clip he was talking about. He said that kids used to be allowed to go out and do things to explore their environment. He said that you took a child, it was a rainy day and they had on boots and they jump in a puddle of water and it was splashing, the parent would tell them to stop splashing. That would be the perfect opportunity to teach them about science, gravity, the three laws of I was like physics, I'm sorry, 3 laws of gravity and things like that. And parents are pushing them away from that. So you start to kill the inquisitive nature of a child. And once you do that, everything else follows with it. So when they have no imagination, when they can't be creative, all of that stuff starts to die on the vine before it even actually has a chance to take root and grow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, understand now, that doesn't mean now, let's be real too. We're not just going to let our kids go out and run rampant, right? However, there's a way to do anything. Like you said, when they're exploring and they're asking questions, instead of telling them to be quiet, let them talk. Let them explain to you what it is they see. Nurture that inquisitiveness. So they can still be inquisitive and explore, right? And not, because again, the world is crazy too, right? So we're not just letting our kids go run so far away that we got to call them and figure out where they are. No, we're not doing that. However, there's a way to nurture that inquisitive nature and that curiosity, and to let them explore and still learn in their environment and let them be kids.
Absolutely.
All right. So one of the things, Dr. Richards, when you said you have an all boys like academy, how did you go about the streaming process for enrollment and admissions for kids to come to your school?
So when I say we are in the middle of year 0, and I can explain that, we are in the middle of year 0. So we are slated to open in fall of 26. So we're not even open yet. So we are literally setting up structures, making the plans, putting all those things in the background, putting all those things in place. And it really came through just the idea, and you receive state approval to do that. So the idea, I actually, full transparency, I sat on the board prior to becoming the leader of Green Tech Rochester. So you can put forth the idea in any charter application. You just have to get approval for it, and have to be able to back that idea up as the why, and what is it going to be the benefit for the community and the community support and things like that. But for enrollment, and we're literally heavy into the recruitment and enrollment season, so we're targeting Head Starts, pre-K schools, daycares, any family events that are taking place in the community, any events that's going to get us out there with parents where young children may be, handing out flyers and brochures, giving folks the website to visit the website. I'm slated to visit some of our local churches, making those community connections with people that you already have relationships with is huge. Right. And then giving them the information every chance to get. Like, I don't even leave the house anymore without flyers or brochures somewhere in the car or in my bag or what have you. I happen to be in the bank, and the lady was talking to me, and she was like, so wait, what? So it's a new school? And so we got into this discussion, and so I gave her my email, because she was like, well, wait, my son is not there yet, but my sister's son is. So you never know when you're going to find yourself in those conversations where you can be passing that information along. So I don't leave the house without cards and flyers. I handed out a few today. Someone asked me for a couple of cards. Visit a website. Then they go on to where we here in Rochester, we work with an organization called Good Schools Rock. Parents go on there, create an application. It's almost like the Common App for college, right? But they can look and explore all of the charter schools throughout the Rochester area, and then do applications where they choose. So that's how they set up their account, and then they choose Green Tech Rochester as their school choice.
Okay.
Absolutely. Rochester, I think Green Tech Rochester is number 28 now in terms of the number of charter schools in the city.
At 27 or 20, I believe 27.
Right.
But 27 or 28. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You know, Rochester City School District hasn't been doing well for quite some time, you know, and so people always say then, you know, charter schools take money away from schools. No, charter schools create options, choices for parents and children alike, because if there's a system that's just not working for whatever reason, parents should be able to have that option and that choice to send their kids anywhere. So just like parents have the choice to send their kids to private schools, right?
Absolutely.
It's the same thing. They have the choice to send their kids to charter schools. So many of us can't afford to send our kids to private school, but charter schools may be the next best thing, you know, outside of private schools. And you have some charter schools that are doing amazing. And we know that there are some that are outperforming school districts. 10 of the top high-performing schools in New York City, the top 10 are all charter schools. So the governor has increased the limit of charter schools this year that could actually open in New York City. So I know for us, Green Tech Niagara, that our application in terms of was delayed because they had to provide all of that assistance and manpower toward assisting those schools opening that they had approved in New York City. So I'm excited that we're at that point now, because there's been a lot of work. And as you know very well, Dr. Richards, it's the behind the scenes part, you know, the gathering the information, trying to bring the community on board, trying to get leaders to believe in the vision. You know, it takes a lot of work and effort. And some people believe in it, some people don't, you know, but what really matters is that those of us who have a vision, you know, and who have a stake in this and believe that our children can do better, you know, that we are committed to this work and able to ensure that we bring these type of schools and these types of options and choices to the community, because they deserve it.
Absolutely. And, you know, for me, it's so much more than the competition, right? Because it shouldn't be a competition. Parents deserve choices. They deserve options. So I would love for it to get to beyond that point where it's, oh, you need to come to us because they're doing horrible. Oh, you need to come to us because this is, you know, this is not what they're doing over here. Right. How about just giving parents the options and the choice?
That's right.
Of sending their children where we want to. So someone did ask me, matter of fact, earlier today, when I was kind of out and about in the community, and they were like, well, what about tuition and scholarships for the boys? And I said, we're free.
Right.
There's no tuition.
That's a lot of people's primary concern. Yeah.
You know, we're a free charter school, right? Because we're public.
We're public.
So there's that other, you know, misnomer that we're not public. Mm-hmm. We're public and we're free. There's no tuition. There's no scholarships needed and necessary. We're here to do something different that is going to impact the trajectory and narrative of our young boys here in Rochester. That's our goal.
Absolutely. And our goal is the same in Niagara Falls. You know, I mean, everybody deserves good schools. And, you know, I took that from Principal Corliss. Gerlis. She is the principal of International School 45 in Buffalo. And when she said that to me, it just ringed, you know. I was like, you're right. Everybody deserves good schools. And they should not be forced to be held hostage in a school, you know, that may or may not be meeting the needs of the child. So what are we going to do to level the playing field and create those options for our parents? So when Dr. Miller came to me about, you know, us connecting together about, hey, you think Niagara Falls is a viable place for a school? And I was like, absolutely. Absolutely. And so what we know is that out of, you know, 7 out of 9 of the schools in Niagara Falls are failing. They're failing. So what do we do? You know, do we sit around and keep sending our children to a broken system? Or do those of us who have the ability, the skill set and the knowledge do something about it? Or we just continue to sit there and play nice and say, well, we're going to let the school system self-correct itself. Well, I left Niagara Falls in 2023, and the data was terrible then. And so I'm coming back, and in total transparency, Niagara Falls children, they did good this year. So last year, if I'm just being 23-24 school year, we looked at ELA third grade, 22% proficiency. 22%. That means 78% of the kids were not proficient, couldn't read. In math, 23% fourth graders. 23 could do basic math or were proficient in math. But this year, all right, those numbers for ELA went up to 34%. For ELA for fourth grade, they went up from 23 to 34%. All right. And I always say growth of any kind is good.
Absolutely.
It's good. What I'm saying is to those teachers who got in there and did the work and grew these numbers, I salute you. Thank you. Thank you. But we look at Niagara Charter. Niagara Charter, third grade ELA. Charter school, because this is the thing, Niagara Falls has, scared the locals into believing that charter schools are evil. Charter schools, third grades, and the majority of their students, by the way, are African American. Mm-hmm. The majority of their students at Niagara Charter are African American. Third grade, 82% pass rate. Proficiency in reading. Fourth graders.
You touching a nerve with that one. I ain't even gonna get into that one, boy.
Fourth graders, 71%, right? In math, third graders in math, 85% proficiency in math. Third graders.
And I could go farther behind. Why? Because you guys mentioned the cost and said it was free. I can go into what, and I'm sure you know, Tony, as well, why that's a sore issue for not the residents in the city, but those people who are connected with the jobs that the school district provides in the city.
Yeah, it's politics. But here's my thing. I'm not here to throw Niagara Falls School District under the bus. They're doing the best they can, right? Mm-hmm. And they're receiving the children from parents who are sending them their best, mm-hmm. right? What we have to make sure is that we have the best teachers in front of them.
Right.
So at the end of the day, what we have to ask ourselves, if the parents are sending their best, are we providing our best to them?
Right.
And, we have to take a hard look and we have to ask those hard questions. And in some cases, we're not.
I think.
And so okay. I'm sorry.
I think one of the things with Niagara Falls, and I think it was a couple of years ago, I read something about the medium salaries that they were making, and they make good money.
Yeah,
those teachers, and they've been there forever, and some of them. They just don't leave. I think they got, good benefits. But are they really teaching, or they got to the point like, oh, I'm enjoying this salary. My days is over for putting in this work, and I'm just, kind of raking in the money. And I'm not saying that's what's happening, but you got to believe when somebody's been in, some of them that's been there 25, 30 years, and then the way the dynamics have changed with some of our young students coming in and the different behaviors, some of them, many of them may be checked out from teaching.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, right? Because we talk about charter schools taking money away, right? When we know throughout the country, if we've been paying attention, there's been a lot of corruption in public school education.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so let's not forget that. So children are still losing in the public school system, right? But this is not to hold all of the public school system accountable. But I'm just saying that there's some things that's happening. And we can look at Niagara Falls, for instance. I would say go to See-Through New York. And what you do there is that you can put in your teacher's name, your student teacher name, and their salary will pull up from last year.
Yes, all
so
public
people might
information.
be upset with me sharing this information.
It's all public.
But if you want to know why that counselor made $160,000, or if she really did, see through New York would show that. If you want to know why deans are making $120,000 and $140,000, see through New York will show that. If you have questions about why people are receiving certain types of payments, how is that possible? Because I tell you, it's, if you're an educator, man, you better try to get to Niagara Falls, because they're gonna take care of you, and that union is gonna see to it. But what I'm saying, is that at the end of the day, all of that money that they paying in overtime, all of that money that they paying for you to walk a kid to the bus or staying outside at the bus stop, that money can go to fund those services that those students that read at 34%, that got math at 30%, that funding could be used to look at how to best assist these students. And let's not even talk about the special needs students, right?
Niagara Falls is #1 in the state, I believe, in terms of their financing for assistance for special needs students. So that absolutely what he's saying about the finances is absolutely correct. And I'll
20%.
I'll say this as a person who's ran for the school board 3 times. That money is there. It's just how it's being utilized.
20% of the school district's children are special needs. That's huge. That is huge. And I'm like, are we making sure that those kids get everything that they need? Are we designing our educational programs that's in place now, assisting our babies and making sure? Because you got, what a lot of people fail to understand is that Tony Riley had been gone for 23 years. Ms. Gloria Dolson, one of the city leaders there, reached out to me, and she said, our special ed population and our special ed students are in need of help, Mr. Riley. We need you to come home. Our special ed students are in need of help. They're not being treated fairly. And the whole city heard her screams and yell from the mountaintop. And I came back and I said, well, let me just see for myself. And what I saw, I was discouraged. But my thing is, we can sit here and we can pass blame, or I and my team and individuals like me and Dr. Richards, we can work together to improve outcomes for our students in areas where there's not equity in education, where our kids are lagging behind. And when I say kids, I mean all children.
Yeah.
All children. All children. Just because we sit up, we talk about all boys school, let's get it clear. All children, no matter what color they are welcome at Green Tech Rochester.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have to also remember that education is not a one size fits all.
That's right.
That, I believe, as educators, right, for years, that's some of the things that we need to get out of, because what I do for Johnny may not work for Joe or may not work for Bobby. Like, I need to look at that student as an individual and cater to what that student needs and what's going to help them learn best. And that's every student, special education student, every student, they learn differently.
That's right.
Our boys learn differently. So we have to do something different. We have to change the environment. We have to change the narrative to give them what they need, because that's what's going to fuel their success.
Absolutely.
So one of the things when I think about that is, when you think about the public school sector and the increased enrollment in the class sizes, where you may have 30, 31 or 32 kids in a class. And I work at the middle school level, and, and you have transient populations that kids are enrolling second quarter, at the end of quarters. And it's hard for teachers to be able to individualize and get to know who these students really are. So a charter school would be appealing, because probably that intimacy and that close bond that teachers are developing, because the classroom sizes may be smaller, is everything to kids, because all kids want attention and they want structure. Even the ones that we consider the worst kids, if they get with a teacher that show them that they care and they provide them structure and they're consistent, then they'll learn, they'll work for them. But we got to get into that place.
Students don't come through the door wanting to be the worst student ever, right?
No,
Every student comes through the door want love in school. And this is what we have to figure out is where does that shift and change? Like you said, parents they bring us their best babies, right? So it's up to us to continue to nurture and grow that. And where does the shift change? Why does it change? No one comes through the door saying, I'm coming through to create havoc today and I'm going to tear it up. The babies want to be there. And this goes for our older students too. If we stop and take the time to talk to our older students, not talk at them, but talk with them, right? And have those conversations. So I was telling Tony, I was talking the other day, and we were talking about some of the commercials and things we had done for Green Tech Rochester with some young scholars. And I had to turn around to my crew, like, did y'all prep them with these questions? Like, because they were like, so what are your intentions for Green Tech Rochester? Like, what are you going to do when a student comes in and they need help and support? I'm like, if there are many adults talking to me, right? Because their brilliance was showing through. Like, and this was not no pre-prep questions and you choose what you want. No, this was right off the muscle. Like what you got? And I said, what you got for me? And we sat and just talked, and they were like examples. If a student is having a bad day, what are you in there? So I flipped it. I said, you tell me, what is it you're looking for when a student is having a bad day? And I mean, and our babies will give you the answers to what they need. We as the adults have to listen.
Absolutely. David and I often talk about, and I don't think this is what your program is doing, but we often talk about wraparound services because we know some of the adults aren't properly educated enough to deal with some of the caseload that their kids are bringing home. So if their kids are bringing home work that their parents can't do, who do those kids turn to? And the wraparound service, at least as I perceive it, would bridge that gap because often a lot of these kids, just like you said, they want to learn, but they don't have anyone to teach them once they leave the confines and the structure of school. So they go home and run down buildings, somebody outside hustling, and the mother might still be at work. So they're not the generation that we came from, where they were self-sufficient when they came home. They don't have a neighbor looking in on them. They don't have a neighbor they can turn to. So what do?
And see, that's a partnership. It has a partnership in community, right? We have to figure that out and what that looks like. And, being able to, like, I can tell you, my nieces and nephews know, you need help with math, call your uncle. Don't call your auntie, right? We split it up. You call him for science and math, call me for English and social studies, right? Because again, that additional support. And it may not even be that their parent or guardian can't do it. It just depends on the lifestyle, right? Whether they're working or, something else is going on or, but when we say it takes a village, like that, we got to get back to that. Yes. Like it takes a village to raise children. Like nobody can do it by themselves. I would love for somebody to find me a parent or somebody who said I did it all by myself and nobody ever helped me. Because then you're talking about teachers, you're talking about counselors at school, you're talking about other family members. I remember back in the day, you do something, get in trouble, the world knows why, because your mom don't tell everybody because you're not gonna repeat it again. Because at the family function, auntie gonna say, so I heard you, and you're like, oh my God, who else did you tell, right? But you were less likely to repeat that behavior because you didn't want mama telling everybody what you did. And everybody got on you just like mama and daddy did. Absolutely. So some of those things we have to get back to, right? And support our parents who do need that help and time because they're helping balance and putting food on the table, on the roof over their head. And what does that look like? We have to get back to some of that stuff. And that means everybody, all parties have to be willing to accept the help.
Absolutely. That's that holistic approach, right?
The whole child. Oh my
God. The whole child.
Foundation, a part of who I am, whole child. Like you gonna yell at the baby coming through the door, and I'm like, time out. How about you speak to them first? How about good morning?
Absolutely.
Like, you got a relationship with them, and you can look at them coming through the door and tell that there's something going on. So before you start pounding on them about being late or not turning this in, how about what's going on? How are you? Can I help you? Let's talk about your day. What are your goals? Like have a conversation.
Absolutely.
Before we just start jumping on them.
That's why those morning circles are so important, when the kid walks in through the door, right? You want to check the temperature of the child.
Absolutely.
Because if a child is hungry, they're not going to learn. If a child mother just got them screaming and yelling and calling them all types of names, guess what kind of mood they're going to be in? You think they're going to be highly motivated to learn? Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
So we have to make sure that we understand how important relationship building is with our students, because it goes back to what we all know is that students don't learn from teachers they don't like.
No, they
right?
sure will not.
And teachers, and unfortunately, some teachers don't teach children they don't like. So we have to be mindful and realistic, that this actually happens. And sometimes we like to say, oh, we're professionals, this doesn't happen. They're going to teach. Some teachers not going to teach as hard, some of those children who have it hard, because they feel that it's too hard for them. Right.
And the funny thing about that, it reminds me back. I stayed in Alcott for a number of years, which is a small little hamlet off the coast of Lake Ontario. And teachers had the option of filling in notes about the students. He or she was a joy in class to teach and things of that nature. I guarantee you that if we were to change that and we were to give students that option of filling that out, you would find out what teachers are universally disliked and which ones teach well.
Mm.
And what students need from those teachers.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
I have a student was told there was at one point a student who came in to see me, and I could just see on his face, and this, years ago, see on his face the distress. And I stopped and I said, tell me what's going on. And so they kind of went down the whole situation. At the end of the day, his feelings was hurt because of the way he felt the teacher treated him. So I said, well, did you tell her? He said, I didn't get a chance to. She didn't listen. I felt like she wasn't listening to me. So I set up a time for that teacher to come in and to sit, and the three of us to sit and talk, and not to even talk, but to listen to that student. Right. And the teacher walked out in tears after the student left, because she was like, I didn't realize that he was feeling that way. So sometimes we have to just stop being on autopilot, right? Mm-hmm. Stop just, you do as I say and listen to me and listen to them, because they're going to tell you what's missing and what they need from us as the adults.
Absolutely.
Yep.
See, we got to keep it real. We do know that some teachers are petty as heck. So they like to get in power struggles.
Yes. With the kids.
And me as a counselor, I hear a lot of it, and I'm like, for real? That's what they said? And the kid's like, yeah, I swear, Mr. Glover, I swear. I said this. All I did was walk in, and they just start going in. And they like, at that point, I just was like, okay, I'm walking out. I'm leaving. And then they come down to my office, and I got to try to do damage control to try to get them back in. But it's like, as adults, we can't be petty like the kids. Sometimes we have to be open-minded, and as you say, look at their face, look at the the body language, the non-direct communication, and say, yeah, something going on, something a little off about him or her today or something, and spend a little extra time with that student to kind of get them back on track. But some teachers, they ready to go in. Hey, they come in with their game face on, like, oh, I'm not taking it from here, and I'm about to, as soon as they walk in, I'm gonna give it to them, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, every day should be a new day, right? Every day should be a new day for a student, like you said, and as the adults, it's up to us to leave whatever that issue is, right, out the door, at home, leaving home, like, and we're human, we get that, but the same thing we do for the kids, then we also need to have supportive systems for the adults, right? Yeah. Because what you have to remember is when the adults feel good, they're going to make sure them babies get everything that they need. Mm-hmm. So we got to take care of the adults as well. Because if you having a rough day and you come through the door, and before them babies come through your door, you need to come and sit in my office. I used to do something called tea time with the principal, or tea time with the AP. So I'm going to do something like that again at Green Tech, because it was the most beneficial thing ever. Sometimes my teachers just they didn't need me to give them any answers. They just need a place to just let it out.
You can press.
Whoever that made them mad that morning, they just driving in and they couldn't let it go, whatever that is, or they needed somebody to help them process through in a different perspective, right? Because then they were good, they were set and ready to receive those children and give them their best that day. So we still have to have a system to also take care of the adults, because when the adults feel good, they make sure our babies feel good.
Absolutely. That's where you got to incentivize education, right? So one of the things Buffalo Public Schools is doing right now is that they're actually paying kids to come to school as a reward. So, I'm like, oh, where's that incentive for, educators as well,
Listen.
That makes teachers feel good too, right? Let's not forget about the teachers, and the leadership. Everybody needs to feel good.
Are they having an attendance problem?
Everybody having an attendance problem with these kids nowadays, So, Buffalo Schools is having an attendance problem. I can tell you, as a middle school principal in Rochester, it was an issue for me. So I had to find ways to try to incentivize and get kids to come to school. As a teacher or teacher leader down in Atlanta, the same thing. I work closely with administration to try to create incentive plans, such as kids being able to have first block off and come to the gym, and then the gym they can do whatever they want to do if they met certain attendance goals that we set for them. So the kids loved it, and they started checking in because they love being able to hang out with their friends. They could talk on their phones, record, play basketball, so that was a great way to get kids into the building. All right, because the bottom line is, kids that don't show up are going to impact school scores, and those are the things that measure the success of a school. So,
well, let me ask this particular question then, because David has said this, and I've come to agree: is it time for this country, not just Rochester, Buffalo, Niagara Falls, or New York State? Is it time for this country to change what we call a school? In other words, is it time for us to actually make buildings to where we can house families? That way, if they don't have access to the services they can get across town, those services are in the building.
That's a unique thought, and one of the things of education, people are always looking for innovation, and apartment complex tied to an actual school, and and the connecting bridge to that. Hey, you can find some investors, tell them I'll come and help create it.
because it's funny, because in Niagara Falls we have that, like the Summit Park Mall is sitting abandoned for I don't know how many years. You could conceivably take students who are going to BOCES, who are looking for a trade, deconstruction. You could bring in HVAC. You could teach all of that. You could bring in people who are looking to get into psychology, and you can have them take classes there. You can have everything that you need right there, and it's on a busing route. So everything that you conceivably need for a family is there. So now you don't have to worry about people being singled out. You don't have to worry about somebody being pointing this or snickering here, because we're all in this boat together. None of us is higher than the other. No one is lower than the other. We come here, hey, look, how's your son doing today? Everybody's there. Teachers, staff. They don't have to worry about food, because we're going to put a shopping center here. We're going to teach you how to shop. We're going to teach you how to budget. We're going to teach you how to cook. We're going to teach you how to do laundry. Everything you need is right there.
Those social skills, and all of that stuff, they're going to get that, those foundational pieces at an early age. So I can tell you one thing about green tech, and so some of the things that we're looking to do is to make sure that those kids early on have those skills, that they're going to need to be successful when it comes time for them to transition into middle school. So one of the things that our plan is eventually to build out to actually becoming a bilingual school. All right, because we understand the importance of language. All right, and we also understand the dynamics of our country and where it is in terms of its population and its people. Niagara Falls is a growing school with a growing need for a school that thinks differently, that behaves differently, and that is committed to higher education at its earliest stages, right? We can't wait to get to high school and then decide, oh man, we got to go back. They miss phonics. We got to make sure, that they get it at its earliest stages when they're supposed to. And when they're able to acquire a lot of the language we need them to have to be successful during their transitional period from elementary, middle school, into high school, and therefore to college or the military or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. So what we're looking to do is provide, a lot of those high quality instructions at the lowest level to engage our students from the moment that they walk into the door, to be excited about learning, and know that they're coming to a place that they are safe, and that they understand today they're going to learn not only about America, but they're going to learn about them from a cultural responsive standpoint. So what we state is asking is that they want schools to be culturally responsive. They want cultural education in the classroom. And what do we mean by that? Well, guess what? As a teacher, and I have Hispanic students, how can I embed the Hispanic culture into my instructional piece? How can
not just a little piece and a week here, but no, embedded and part of the school culture, right? Everyday learning, part of how we learn the Green Tech way.
Absolutely. So one of the things being is that I had someone in the community come up to me and she said, I said, I was thinking about, we're going to add to our school. We were thinking about Spanish and Arabic. And so I want, people to know that, hey, when I was putting this together and I was bringing everybody to the table, I was listening to the community. I was listening to those who came and sat down and said, hey, what do we need? What's happening in our city? We know that we had an influx of Arab speakers, all right? We have an influx, of Latinos coming in. I'm looking at the data and I'm seeing in terms of those communities in our schools, or some of those communities in our schools, they're not showing up for school. And I'm wondering, all right, African Americans not showing up, Latinos not showing up, special needs students not showing up, L students are not showing up. So what can we do, so that we are a community school? So one of the things you talked about that's so important, going back to the holistic approach. When we were coming up in Niagara Falls, we had night gym, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't have time to get in trouble because education and crime go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to attack crime, then you have to fund education.
Right.
That's how it goes. I'm sorry, y'all, but it's really that simple. All right. So I'm sitting here and I'm saying we have to create something to everyone that understands that, we got to provide safe spaces for these kids. So when they leave, when school ends, guess what? If we can hold on to them, just a little bit more, that'll give us opportunity to provide some of those additional wraparound services and such as tutoring. All right. Because looking at data from crime statistics, the most dangerous time for our children to get in trouble is from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So if we can hold them to that window, the chances of them leaving us and going to get in trouble decreases, right? But we're talking about older age students. But what we know is that they are recruiting kids in elementary to walk right into these gangs.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. That's on the video.
We have to make sure that we are sitting up here looking at the parent and saying, hey, how can we be of service to you as well?
But that ties though also, Tony, right? That ties into not just the parent, right? And we know that the parent could be mom, dad, auntie, uncle, grandma, older sibling, right? But it ties into the family because we have to remember some of our families are out there, right? Mom, dad, whomever may need to work, may not get off till 6, right? So now we making it the responsibility of the older sibling to take care of the younger sibling. So how about we put a program or something in place where that allows not just the tutoring, but it allows that older sibling to be able to do whatever they need to do, whether it's recreation center hang out, but we also have the younger sibling right there too, right?
Absolutely.
Giving them the support, and not just always, yes, we want them to grind with the work, right? Get the homework done, reinforce what they learned during the day, but we also have to give them recreation and teach them how to live and be people.
Yes.
Because the books. Colleges don't even want somebody now who are just straight A students.
Exactly.
They want a well-rounded person.
They want athletics.
They want people who are involved in things. And one of the things studies and research also shows is when children are involved in activities, when they have a structured schedule, and it doesn't mean they got to do 20,000 things, just maybe even one or two more activities, right? That plays a whole lot into their education and how they organize themselves, they prioritize how they do things, right? My rule for my kids and my nieces and nephews was you had to at least be in one after school activity, at least one. Now my kids took that to the extreme. They was in a lot, but my nieces and nephews, they knew at least one. And then we were having this conversation the other day, and they were just like, Titi, it just helped so much when they got to college, right? Organizing their day, balancing their schedule. And it wasn't that they were in the books all the time, but they were in the books when they needed to. Then they were able to kind of go out and do other things, but they knew how to come back and make sure that everything was well-rounded. So one of the things education has to do, we have to change with the times. Because again, if we say it's not a one-size-fits-all, that means the kids are going to change. So we don't have to change teaching them, making sure they got the foundation skills as far as literacy and math, right? Reading and writing, but maybe how we teach that and what does that look like? What avenue is that taught through? We know that right now, CTE, career and technology, you know, HVAC, plumbing, things that are going to give people jobs in the future is huge. So
Absolutely.
what does that look like even for when we start with our youngest ones? Just like you said, learning different languages while they're young, right? Getting them involved in STEM, because like I said, Green Tech Rochester, we're going to have a heavy STEM focus. We also
Niagara as well.
On partnerships, right? Teaching them a language when they're little.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That multi-language piece, like not, and I'm not talking just to say, Spanish, Arabic, Darwin, ASL, right? Things that they will need in life that will take them even further along.
Absolutely.
And the thing about that is they'll teach each other.
That's right.
They will
make the teacher's workload less, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is actually teachers transitioning from being teachers to being facilitators, right? We want student-led classrooms. We want student academic talk. But what does that look like, right? Because many schools, you know, right now, some of the schools that I've been in really don't have a grasp of that. You know, so you could go in the classroom and all you see is the teacher standing at the front giving directions at the board, and the student never gets the opportunity to be an active leader in the classroom. So what does it look like when a student is the one that's pushing out the lesson? Yeah. Right?
Teaching lessons, engaging their peers. Absolutely. They have to. That's the only, and that's another way to test mastery, right? Yes. People talk about tests. We ain't gonna talk about tests because some of them tests need to go away. But like, you know, being engaged in the learning, being able to come up to the board and you be the teacher for the day. What does that look like? Yes. I used to say to my teachers, I wonder what this lesson would have looked like if your students taught it. Right. If it was led by them. And I mean, you now are sitting in the classroom as a student, because if you're teaching your lessons with fidelity, right, you're giving them all the skills and all the pieces they need, at some point, you should be able to hand off, okay, Tony, here you go. You're the teacher for the day.
Absolutely. And they're going to want to lead. They're going to want to.
They're going to want to lead. They're going to want to engage. And that doesn't mean you all hands off and they just do whatever, right? But that means that you are then their guidance if they need you there, right? Being able to have language such as, you know, we're having a conversation and you know what? Well, Mr. Riley, I'm sorry. I disagree with Johnny because, you know, then so-and-so, well, Mr. Riley, I disagree with Johnny and Joe, and this is why, right? And that be everyday language and how they have conversations in classroom and learn from each other. Because we know they learn better. They learn better from each other than they do from adults anyway.
Absolutely. You know, and I tell teachers that all the time, right? I'm like, listen, you have to leverage those high skill, high value students in your
Absolutely.
classroom,
Right.
and once they have the knowledge, allow them to lead.
Yeah.
And someone just put in there, less teacher voice. Exactly. Allow those students to lead, allow them to drive the lesson. They will do it if you trust them. If you give them the opportunity, they will be what you need them to be.
How are they going to learn how to self-correct if we don't allow them to make mistakes?
Absolutely.
Making a mistake doesn't mean you're doomed for life. That means you've learned how to it's a safe space to make a mistake, how to correct it and fix it.
Yes.
Right? And do it right.
Right.
So that's one of the things I keep saying. I know people don't want to hear it, but I say schools need to be 50% academic and 50% social, because with these lack of social skills, which cause conflict, this is why we have crime and all that stuff. So
SEL now,
if they're not getting it from home, then somebody got to do it. So, and if you're not together socially, if that's social aspect, your mental and all that stuff is not right, you're not about to do nothing in school anyway like that. So that's why it got to be some type of change in that balance, that 50-50 or 60-40 or something, but it can't be 80-20, 80 academics and 20% social. You got to have a balance.
Listen, one of the biggest teachers for us is in the education system, and I know people keep talking about they're tired of hearing it, but the biggest teacher of that should have been COVID. Because when we decided to open back up, first of all, we shut the world down and said to parents and families, close schools, everything is closed, shut the world down, nobody leave their house, right? Then we slowly open back up, and now the schools are saying, okay, give them back. And parents are looking at us like, give my babies back to you all? I'm supposed to trust y'all again? Like, we have to think about that. No, that wasn't going to be that easy, right? So then children forgot how to socialize, how to share, how to talk to each other, because they've been either behind a screen, they've been on a phone. Talking to somebody face to face is much different than talking to them through a computer. Or even talking on the phone. I've learned now that talking on the phone for me is hard. I'll FaceTime somebody in a minute because I need to see your face, right? I don't just want to talk on the phone anymore. So that should have been a teacher for us to say, guess what? We have to learn now how to pivot. How do we teach those social skills? How do we reteach those for those who learned them and lost them? And then now for those coming up who may not have been impacted by COVID, right? We still now have to teach them differently. So that should have been huge for us in our education. I think we missed the boat a little bit on some of that, right? Like now you worried about how many people you got fighting and playing, and now they don't want to share. So I took the toy and we on the playground pushing and shoving because we didn't teach them how to be with each other again before we just said, okay, everybody come back to school, everybody in the classrooms, and you'll figure it out on your own.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's definitely real. So I don't know if y'all still want to carry on. I know, Tony, you originally said 8 to 9, but if y'all still want to, got any other things y'all want to get out there.
I just want to say, first off, I want to say, Dr. Richards, thank you for coming out and sharing with us the journey that Green Tech Rochester is currently on. I really appreciate you making time for us and for my community, therefore our community, to get to understand the work that we're doing and why it's so important that we're here. And we're going to continue, I can tell you, in Niagara Falls to make a lot of noise. And I know you're going to do the same in Rochester to let people know that, hey, we're coming. School year 2028, 27-28. We're going to be in Niagara Falls. I'm going to be excited to open up our new school, Renee Kimball Academy, Green Tech Niagara. What I can tell you is that what we plan on doing is having an amazing relationship with parents, with the community. We are one. We are not here to be. We're here to be an asset for everyone, even the school district. And we hope that at some point in time, we will be able to work with them to improve student outcomes. Because at the end of the day, what it's about is our children. And so what we're going to do is say, The door is always welcome to Niagara Falls School District and the city school board members. We would love the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with you about how a partnership with you may or may not look, what it might look like. But understand that we're not the enemy. We are advocate for children and serving children. And we hope that you will allow us to work alongside you as a partner in this, and we're able to achieve student outcomes for our city, and therefore have an enormous impact on what it might look like for them in their future down the road. So
Absolutely. Again, I told you before, you are so welcome. This is now a partnership, right? Because again, anyone who is out to do what's best for children, and we always have to work together and bounce things off each other, right? We just talked about this earlier. No one can do this work in a silo. If you tell me you can do it by yourself, then we might need to find you a different profession because you can't educate children on your own. As somebody who started out my career as a school counselor, right? Moving into administration, like, I'm here for the children. We have to do something different for our boys in Rochester, and Green Tech Rochester is going to be that place. So I appreciate you all for having me. Thank you for inviting me to share this time with you. I'm here. I'm open. I'm willing to have those conversations. Rochester community, I love you, and we are out to do great things at Green Tech Rochester. Our first all boys elementary charter school here in the city of Rochester. We're excited. It's time to do great things, and I look forward to working with you all.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. I said these kind of conversations, they always invigorate me because, and I said this before and I'll say it again, I think the way this country views education, it just needs to change. That building, and who knows, I'm 54, I might have some years ahead of me where I might be able to pioneer something like this and get something like that together. Because, like I said, Niagara Falls has so much empty real estate that I think this city, especially with the economic situation that we're in now, would benefit mightily from that. And as opposed to having, the implications of public school, quote unquote, losing money to charter schools, that they can all come together. Because I think the city has an untapped resource in its retired teachers. I can't tell you how many retired teachers and admins, shout out to Bruce Brundage, who are here, who would love nothing more than to come back and assist.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because there is a talent of retired teachers. And one of the things too that Green Tech Niagara will not have that Niagara Falls School District has is a residency requirement. So we want to make sure that we're able to pull from the best teachers out there, and teachers who are committed to actually doing this work, because sometimes what happens, the unions are so strong that those ineffective teachers have jobs. You can't get rid of them, right? And they're standing before our kids. So we want to make sure that we have the right people standing before our kids, and that if you live in Lockport, you live in Buffalo, you live in any of the areas, and you willing to come to Niagara Falls and help us move children and be successful, you are welcome at Green Tech Niagara. We welcome you with open arms. Absolutely. So come join us, whether it's Green Tech Rochester, Green Tech Niagara. We're looking for the best and the brightest to be part of our family.
And that's the key right there, what you just said, Tony, to be part of the family. This is a family. You spend more time at work and at school. Children spend more time in classrooms. You have to be a school family. And we're out there again to change the narrative for our little boys in the city of Rochester.
Absolutely.
Great stuff.
Yeah. Good. Best of luck. Quick question: if anybody wants to assist, and I don't know what that would look like or whatever the case is, how can they reach out to either one of you?
Well, they can go to our website, greentechrochester.com. There's a contact page on there on how you send an email, and I'll have access to that email. That'll be the best. That's probably the best way right now to reach us. If you don't, unless you catch us out in the community, which is also possible. But definitely greentechrochester.com. is one way you can definitely reach us.
Absolutely. So we're currently building out our Green Tech Niagara webpage, but our face page is up, so you can easily find us there. You can Google Green Tech Niagara, or you can you can search for Green Tech Niagara, and it should pull us right up, and you can send an email, or you can, our phone number is listed on there, and you can, easily send a text if you want to help or you have any questions about the school. But we're going to be providing updates on Facebook, and we're going to let everyone know once our webpage is up and running, and everyone will be able to catch up with us. So I just want to go. One of the things people have been asking me, like, where are you going to put the school at? Because there's no school buildings in Niagara Falls. Well, like you said earlier, there's a lot of real estate there. All right. And so we won't know until our application is approved by the state. So once the application is approved by the state, then we will be able to look at our funding and determine whether we'll be able to renovate some space there or do a complete new build. So we want to make sure that wherever the school is located, that is in walking distance for the community. All right. Because we understand that having schools out in Lockport are not doable for parents who don't have transportation, and can't get there if they need to be there in case of emergency, parent-teacher conference, or whatever it may be. So we want to make sure that we're in the city, we're visible, and that parents know that they have access to us at all times.
So quickly, Dr. Richards, was that the same type of situation with you getting the building? Like, how did you?
So let me also say we have Facebook as well as Instagram, and we're actually working on our LinkedIn page will be up this week. And so we are in the process of seeking state approval for a building, and that process within itself is a lot, right? You have to kind of go out, see what's available, talk to the owners and figure all those things out and what's viable for schools and what's not. So we are in the process of seeking state approval for where we will be located, which is in the city of Rochester. And how our transportation works is the home district of the student. We will work with the transportation department of the home district. So if you live in the city, if you live in one of our neighboring suburbs, Greece, Gates, Rondequoit, we will work with that district's transportation to get you transportation to come. But our hope is to be located right in the city of heart in the city of Rochester, and cross your fingers that we get approval for the building we're looking at.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. I know Buffalo doesn't. Unlike Niagara Falls has its own busing system that is incorporated with the school district. I know Buffalo uses NFTA, the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority, and they give their students bus passes that they can use during the week. It might be beneficial for your program to look into something like that.
So I know here locally for the city, that's what they do with the older students. You gotta remember, I'm having babies, right? Kindergarten, first grade. So right. That transportation is door to door. So that's why we will work with the home district of the student for transportation, to Green Tech. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the same thing would be happening with GT Niagara. We would be working with Niagara Falls School District to make sure that our students continue to get those special ed services as well. As well as coordinate with transportation. So it's really a lot of logistics, when it comes to doing something like this. This is really high level work, is what this woman told me. She said most superintendents never seen anything like this, right? They don't do this type of work because remember, you're building something from the ground up. They don't exist until you bring it to life, right? And that's what we've done. And so it's been a huge task. And it's all about, the children. And that's why we do what we do. And the people we invite and surround and, and sit with us at the table are those that share that same passion and commitment to excellence and to our children.
Absolutely.
Student first.
So one of the things also, Tony, like with the GT Niagara, and I know you said you'll keep people informed, but do you plan on having more events or something to get those parents to come in to even, hear more about the school, be interested and have questions and answers and different things like that? Like,
absolutely. We're going to have more informational meetings right now. we're starting tomorrow. Actually, we are submitting our initial application for the school. So once that happens, then we'll be waiting for feedback from the state whether to move forward. But in the meantime, what we're going to be doing when the weather lets up is that we're still going to be reaching out to the community. We're going to be attending community events, letting people know that we're coming. Our intended goal is 27, 28. And that's but we also understand that it may not happen for us until 2028, but for sure we're coming.
Okay. All right. Any other closing words before we get out of here? I guess I got to go back to work. Been off for we got a 2-hour delay, so you gonna have to reteach kids again. They've been off for a week, so they coming. They coming.
Well, like I was just again, like Nicole's was saying, the greentechrochester.com is our website, Facebook page, Instagram, and the standard is excellence today and tomorrow.
Absolutely. So I would say, Mr. Glover, thank you for and Mr. Wolf for putting this together and inviting us in.
Absolutely.
I salute you guys for what you do to get the word out to the community, especially when we're talking about something so important for all. So again, I salute you guys. Thank you.
Problem. Anytime. Yeah, take care and be safe.
Have a great night.
All right,
Thank you guys for appearing. We appreciate it.
all right.